Minecraft inventory. I either love it or hate it, or both. I guess you can do both. But what we can agree on is that it's not great. There are some mods that do a pretty good job at improving it, but even my beloved Create and its awesome post-production update, to me, it just feels like a bigger inventory, but with some fancy categories added to it. I have never been a fan of just having a bigger inventory window, because then you're going to have the same exact issue, just with a fancy search box instead. So what can we do? Surrender to despair and make endless trips back to our storage system? Not really. That's basically what toolboxes do. They just have two major issues. Very limited space with only 4 stacks per slot. And well, the range by default is basically 10 blocks. So unless you're playing a one-time challenge, it's not great. But what happens if we increase that range to, let's say, 160 blocks? Well, that is exactly when this storage system comes into play. The idea behind this is to have the toolboxes working tandem with the post-production update. So we're going to have the items on those toolboxes. This way we can access them from far away. Obviously, assuming you can change the setting, otherwise you're not even going to be able to use them like from here basically. But assuming you have that setting, the toolboxes are doing toolbox stuff, and the links on the 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 are going to make sure that those toolboxes are always filled up. So what we're going to do, if we check one of them that is already set up, what we're going to do is have them at 3 stacks. And we're going to have them at their specific address and all of that. I'll explain that in a moment. But if you're building and doing whatever in our base, and we go under 3 stacks, that's going to request items to those bolts through those step links, and that's going to send items back into the toolboxes. It's relevant to set it to 3 stacks, because imagine you have 4 stacks of items here and you start placing blocks. Even without placing blocks, you just request those items through this menu. 32 of those items are going to end up on your inventory, and the problem with that is that the 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 is going to detect that 32 items are missing. So it's going to request those items. It's going to completely fill up the toolbox, assuming we have set those up to 4 stacks. And the problem with that is that because the slot is already filled up, if we try to remove the items with this button, so returning items to the nearby toolboxes, it's not going to work. The items will end up in our inventory, and of course we want to avoid that. So if we have it to 3 stacks, even if there is 3 stacks present here, if we return the items, we're not even going to have the maximum 4 stacks. We're still going to have a little bit of spare room, just in case something weird happens, just in case you had a few extra items on your inventory or whatever. That should make it a bit more reliable at least. Of course, we're not going to store all items on those toolboxes. We're still going to access the storekeeper for everything else, because there is still a limited amount of toolboxes that we're going to have, and it's not viable to have like 1,000 contraptions to have 1,000 different items. It's still going to be sensible to have some of them be accessible through the storekeeper, and that's going to send them to this chest. In case you haven't set one of those, we basically have this address as output. So if we request with the storekeeper, it's going to send it with the output address, and that's going to be picked up by this funnel. So this funnel has a package filter with the proper output address. If this specific address is a problem for you because you have that address somewhere else, you can just come here, change the name, and come here and match it with whichever name you have here. So that's completely fine. So long as they match, it doesn't matter. We also have this chest to throw items into those bolts. Or alternatively, you can just hook the spell to whatever farm or something that you have, and that should store all of the items in all of those bolts. So that's something you can do. As for the toolboxes go, we can obviously only have 8 of them, so that's kind of an issue because 8 is actually not that many items. So what we're going to do to bypass that issue is that we're going to have several contraptions with sets of 8 toolboxes. So right now, for example, we have a set of toolboxes that stores all of the woods. We can press the stone button, for example, and we're going to have another set of 8 toolboxes. And we can press the redstone and quit stuff, and we're going to have another set of 8 toolboxes. This way we're going to be able to store a lot more items, and they are still going to be accessible through this menu. Obviously only 8 at a time. So the idea is that if you're building a funnel, for example, you only need to access to the toolboxes for create stuff and whatever. Oh, I'm starting to decorate the base or something. I'm going to access to the wood contraption and so on. So you want to categorize the items by groups that you're going to use at the same time, basically. The core thing about that is that you can actually control them remotely as well. So we have this link controller. We can set up to 6 different frequencies. Because we are reducing the rest of links anyway, we can set those frequencies in here, and we can have up to 6 of them, which of course that's not infinite, but it's still plenty, like it's quite a lot of items. Of course you can have several link controllers, I guess, but that's starting to defeat the purpose of this farm. But regardless, the way this works is that we are going to cycle through those contraptions, and it's more simple than it looks like at first glance. So first we have an extender, 6 seconds, then a pulse repeater. The pulse repeater is relevant to have it reversed, so those redstone links are always active. And this makes sure that those funnels are always locked. The extender is here just in case we push this button repeatedly. This is going to prevent worst case scenarios. Like even if you press this button a couple of times, nothing should happen, nothing should break. But if the server lags, you repeatedly trigger it and whatever, it could cause issues, so this is here to slightly prevent things from happening. Aside from that, when this repeater triggers, it's going to open one of those funnels for a split second, and that's going to send one of those contraptions to this funnel, but this funnel is going to be locked and wait for 30 ticks. So before that happens, we are going to activate this first pulse repeater at the default delay of 2 ticks, and that's going to enable this extender for 20 ticks. What that's going to do is it's going to activate this card assembler, and it's going to make this entire setup become contraption. So after 8 ticks, to make sure that's active, we are going to activate this extender for 7 ticks. That's enough time for this deployer to extend, pick up this pick up this contraption, and revert back to its original position, and that will allow the contraption to go be deposited in one of those barrels. One thing to keep in mind, in my experience, these numbers sometimes can change. In this specific rule, in this specific server, the deployer takes 7 ticks to fully extend and fully retract. But in my experience, I have been in servers where this number was lower, and I have been in servers where this number had to be higher. I'm not sure if it's because of latency or whatever, but if you see this messing up, if you don't see it fully retracted, try to tweak this number just in case, and that's probably going to be the cause of the problem. So after a lot happens, after we pick up the contraption, this is going to be empty. So this funnel is going to be unlocked after 13 ticks, and this deployer is going to paste the new contraption in this spot. And because this card assembler is not going to be active forever, all of those items are going to become actual blocks instead of the contraption, and we should be able to access a new set of toolboxes, which is always good. And this is how we can have several sets of those toolboxes for several different needs, depending on what we are building. Because this storage system doesn't consume a lot of power, it's just those 2 deployers. We have also set some water wheels. They're quite cheap, so I thought might as well just have them, so you don't have to bother with powering this up or whatever. And I have also set a couple of controllers. You can tweak this as you like. If you want the storage system to run slower or something, or you're having latency issues and you need this to be slower or faster or whatever, you can change those here, obviously. Speed controller controls this section and the deployers and all of that. And this bottom speed controller, it's handling those belts. So I have set them to 128 just in case there is lag or whatever, and one of the packages overthrows the funnel, or maybe this package is working and the package doesn't go in. I don't know. I thought I would rather have them run slightly slower because the filling doesn't need to be instantaneous. If your server runs smoothly, you can max it up, I guess. That's up to you. So the storage system sounds quite easy to understand and run. Now, how to set this up? Setting it up, all of this is going to be quite easy, but the 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬s are going to be quite tedious. What I mean by that? The logic of this storage is quite simple. You shouldn't have any issues. But you have to set those 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬s to request the specific items that you need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one schematic with this storage system and nothing else. No contraption or anything. And then I'm going to have a different schematic with just this section. So the block, the card assembler and stuff. And I'm going to have one of those contraptions. So you can print that contraption as many times as you need. If you want to have 8 sets or as many sets, you can print all of those. Now the issue is that you will have to set the 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬s yourself. And I can explain really quickly how to do that. The reason for that is that yes, I can set those up and I can set them up with a block and all of that. Problem is that I cannot set them up if I don't place an item. And I don't like that, because if I send you another set of 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 set up by me, it's going to be the blocks I need specifically. So if we go to the create one, for example, those are the blocks I'm going to use, and there is more down here. But if you happen to have more mods, if you're playing with different automation mods or whatever, or you need different stuff, and you're not using tanks or you're not using whatever of all of those, this is going to be useless for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a blank contraption, and you have to come here, place an item that you want. Let's say you want to fill this up with link controllers for some reason. Then you right click again and you have to set up the address, and you have to hold right click and set up 3 stacks. The addresses are going to be all here. So box 1 to 8. And those are the filters that I'm going to leave on those funnels. So all you have to do is set those up as box 1, set those up as box 2, box 3, box 4, and so on. They're in order basically. So place the item that you want, right click, set the address to whichever one you need, click save and close, right click, set the 3 stacks, and you're basically done. That's properly set up. One thing to keep in mind is that if those 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬s, for whatever reason, maybe importing or whatever, they are not properly linked to those top links, just keep in mind you'll have to grab those 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬s and just right click on those top links and place them really quickly. So yeah, that's basically how this should work. Of course it's a storage system, so it's going to be a bit of an annoying setup, but once you do that once, it's going to be quite handy, I reckon. Anyway, I'm going to prepare those schematics. I hope you enjoyed this system. I hope it's as useful for you as it's going to be for me. I'm personally loving it so far. I have been using it on my server and it's just been working wonderfully. I really like it, especially the middle mouse mechanic. In case you didn't know, if you middle mouse something and you happen to have that item on your toolboxes, you're automatically going to link to that toolbox, and to me that's an amazing feature. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Maybe leave a comment if you like this storage system as much as I do, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye bye!